Bleeding for your character. You know the feeling. Let's unpack why that hits so different. We're gonna unlock that emotional depth that makes you feel things. Sorry. I'm Cora Poe, and through years of ADD and insomnia, I've wondered at many things. So, this is Slumber Myth, a place for that insomnia fuel. It's just a game, but was it just a game when my sweet, saucy vampire Zenith just last week got shot through the throat by her best friend, Iris, with a ghost arrow? Well, yeah, it was still a game then. The point is, I felt the denial for a moment. I felt the betrayal, even if only for an instant. If you don't already know, bleed is the term used for when you start to feel the emotions that your character is feeling. Their fictional state of mind infecting yours. And you best believe your tender heart is not safe from experiencing this for other characters too. My GM's character, Ophelia, a beautiful half-drow elf that's just the sweetest. She got hit really hard during a combat recently, and when I started to think that she might actually die, I realized that there were tears in my eyes, and all of a sudden I had to turn off my camera on Roll20 because I started sobbing out of fear that Ophelia would die. I was so afraid that she would die, me, Cora Poe, that I physically started crying. The reason for this is that one of my characters, Orion, has come to love her like a little sister. So I never stood a chance, man. So that's bleed. That magical moment when your character's emotions become your own. And suddenly, you're ugly crying over someone that doesn't even exist. We're going to dive into how to build emotional depth for your character that increases the chances for moments like this. Why in hells would we do this to ourselves, you might ask? Because the gameplay simply is at its best when we're feeling the most for our characters and their friends. So we're going to go over some things that will turn our PCs into people that we feel for. This not only makes the game more interesting and fun, but it naturally increases the quality of your role-playing. This is Episode 3, How to Build Emotional Depth. Segment 1, Dreams and Fears. To quote the late, great wordmaster Ursula K. Le Guin, characters live not in the moment, but in the continuum of their desires and anxieties. Think of your character beyond existing in this adventure. Even if this is the first episode of the series that you're watching, it goes without saying that you've probably thought about your character's background without the rest of the party. In episodes 1 and 2, in creating a character alongside me, by this point you undoubtedly have a vast inner world and outer personality created for your character. And this is with or without the adventure they are currently or about to be taking part in as a party member. Some D&D examples that come to mind. Dreams. A bard who dreams of creating a song so moving that it heals rifts between nations. Or in the case of fears, a paladin who fears being corrupted by the very power that they wield. That feels like a pretty typical one. Relatable touch points like Harry Potter fearing that he'll be the reason that his found family is harmed. Let players project their emotions onto the character. What are some fears you think your character would have? Are some logical? Are some rooted in trauma and often lacking realistic worry? What dreams does your character have that might counter those fears? What dreams do you personally have that you can personify in your character? Segment 2. Trauma versus treasured memories. When fabricating powerful, pivotal memories for your character and their backstory, please ensure to balance that trauma with treasured memories of joy. This will allow your character highs and lows that make them well-rounded. And it helps to avoid overly dark and mysterious tropes that make your character too dramatic and negative and simply just not fun, and it's hard to take them seriously, and they just get really stale really fast. And also, calm down. We get it. You're a tortured soul. Even Dr. Frankenstein's creature had memories of delight and joy. And even if they were just something as simple as appreciating natural beauty. Good, broad examples of drama you can really build on are like a ranger who is blinded during the fire that destroyed their tribe. Then an example of something treasured to balance out the trauma would be their love for crafting intricate arrows as a way of calming themselves that they learned from the elders in their tribe. They carry this knowledge with them into the future, and for them it's a small ode to their memory. What traumatic experiences has your character had? If any. Not every character has to have a traumatic backstory. And I think that there's a very strong point to be made for not having a traumatic backstory at all. Because then all your trauma gets to happen during the campaign. What treasured memories does your character have? Do they have some lovely nostalgia that helps to balance out the rough memories? Something to quell the trauma? Or are their nice memories just simply not enough to quell the damage that's been done to their psyche? This is Mothra. She is small. A very rare occurrence indeed. It's okay. Nothing's happening. Oh, thank you, baby. Oh, thank you. And let's talk about you for just a moment. What quirks do you enjoy playing in your character that might be able to counter their trauma or help them work towards something that does? This is just something fun that you could do from the outside looking in. Like maybe you're a gruff, retired champion fighter, but at night, when everyone's asleep, you hide under the blanket on your cot and write poetry. Segment 3. Contradictions add complexity. Le Guin also said, true characters are never just one thing. Beloved characters have to have layers to uncover. Peel the onion. I've used the anime My Hero Academia in past episodes, so why not keep it going? Todoroki's icy exterior hides the burning inner struggle that he copes with from compounded family trauma. What is one trait for your character to have that contradicts something that they've been through? And it doesn't have to be a good thing contradicting trauma. It can be trauma contradicting a good thing. Like maybe they've been through something shitty recently in the campaign that ruined a childhood memory they had that they once loved. Let contradictions like this one play out during roleplay whenever and wherever you see the opportunity. Segment 4, Application for Creation. If you don't already know the drill, this segment means we're going to go back through all the questions that were in the first part of this video and answer them on behalf of the characters that we're building together. Étoile, which is French for star, my high elf born tiefling emo bard, College of Eloquence, has many anxieties and fears. Anxiety kind of rules her life and what she chooses to do in it more than what's healthy. She is terrified of rejection and failure, so she refuses to try most things, like singing in public or doing a pie eating contest. If it has the potential for her to fail, she probably won't try. Writing, her only raw talent, is the only thing that she was repeatedly praised for as a child. So she holds on to this and only this, with confidence in her ability, to a certain extent. These fears lack realistic worry as they are only negative influences on her life at this point. They're logical in essence, but they're so amplified that they aren't anymore. What dreams does your character have that might counter those fears? What dreams do you have for yourself that you can personify in your character? Dreams that counter these fears for Étoile would be any that relate to her goal of becoming a world-renowned bard. Her only confidence is in her written word, so participating in that activity quells her fear of rejection and failure. While part of her dream, secretly, is to also be a world-renowned singer, that dream of hers in particular is ruined by this same fear and anxiety of failure and rejection. What traumatic experiences has your character had? And again, not all characters have to have a traumatic backstory. Her fear of rejection and failure is rooted in complex trauma, a form of trauma that occurs in small, tolerable increments, so that over time, right under everyone's noses, it metastasizes into a personality disorder. Like, Étoile probably couldn't tell you a singular traumatic event, outside of the occasional run-in with handsy men, of course. Anxiety about rejection and failure became long-formed behaviors she naturally developed in order to protect herself as a child. But now that Étoile is an adult, these behaviors are harmful instead of helpful. She is instead feeling inadequate in general and can't appreciate her own accomplishments. What treasured memories do they have? Do those more lovely memories of nostalgia help to counter the traumatic ones? Or is it simply not enough to quell the damage? Étoile has the treasured memory of sharing her poetry with her parents for the first time, and their genuinely impressed and proud reactions. And again, when the court choir used songs she had written just as a teen that moved the audience, the entirety of the High Elf court, to tears. These were the only positive memories that she was able to tie to her self-worth. And thus, the only thing that she has a morsel of confidence in is her work. Conversely, she has a great deal more negative memories. And more recent ones from the string of red flag relationships I had mentioned in the last 20 years. From the time Étoile left home at 15, she allowed people into her life that valued her as much as she did. And because of this, her self-worth never improved, and if anything, has worsened since then. So while she is a relatively successful bard, her good memories about all other aspects of herself are smeared by sadness and betrayal and abuse. She was treated the way she felt, and in turn, she felt the way she was treated. A horrible cycle that begets itself. So no, her good memories were not enough to quell the damage. What quirks in the playing of your character bring you joy from the outside looking in? Some quirks I think that will make me happy from the outside looking in would be Étoile noticing when her work is improving, or the magnitude of joy she experiences from positive reactions to her art. All sorrow that weighs her down everywhere she goes, every second of every day, disappears, and she hits the fucking roof with happiness. I think it will be fun to watch her be comically depressing to her party mates, like ruining the moment every chance she gets with a negative perspective that no one else had thought of. What is one trait for your character to have that contradicts something they've been through? One trait that Étoile has that contradicts what she's been through is that she has great coping mechanisms. And I think it would be really sweet if she were able to aid her party mates whenever they encounter the types of feelings that she's always feeling. Her depression has forced her to learn to cope in order to survive. So she knows great grounding exercises and meditations for insomnia, or what love songs to listen to for catharsis after a bad breakup. She won't know it, but this trait will really allow her to showcase the kindness she is capable of to her party mates. And I think it will really start to help her to open up, or help her party realize there's more to her than meets the eye. So I think this contradictory trait will be that in all of her cynicism, she has a great capacity to nurture. She has the capacity to help in ways that don't involve her magic or a quill or a flute. Segment 5, Conclusion. To create a character with emotional depth, a character you feel things for, a character you relate to so much that it has the power to physically upset you, you must reach into yourself, grasp on to the most injured and joyous parts of you, rip them out, and stuff them into your character. That will make you bleed. As always, I can't thank you enough for joining me in this particular episode of How to Make an Irreplaceable Character. Its wall has so much more depth and dimension than she did even just last week, especially with the development of those nurturing qualities she doesn't even know she has. How do you think she's coming along so far? And more importantly, if you are following along, how's your character doing? Leave your answers to these questions in the comments so I can prepare myself to feel for your characters. I love it so much. I'm a masochist that way. I admit it. Please like and subscribe if you haven't yet. Turn on notifications, and I will see you next week for episode 4 of how to make an irreplaceable character. Next time, we'll be diving into giving your character an identity. Thanks for keeping me company to listen to my insomnia thoughts. I appreciate you. Happy nightmares, my little sleepwalkers.